I was going through the back end of our system, looking at our member videos, just to say, hey, you know, who's watching what? And amazingly enough, Mentor Series 01-1, the oldest, most basic video that we have on our entire site, is the #1 watched video, almost 4,700 views. And then the next one is MSO 1-2, questioning skills. And some of these videos, as you know, the Mentor Series are old, what I call vintage videos. We released them in 1999, and everybody still likes them. We know they look dated, but if you listen to them on radio, you'd think they were done yesterday. And if you take a look at all these, most of them look at like prospecting, open houses for sale manner, things like that. Now you may wonder what's the least watched videos, and the sad news is the least watched videos in there are the management videos. And I guess two thoughts on that. One is, well, there's obviously fewer managers than there are salespeople, so you'd expect it to be a little bit lower. But it's disappointing to me that, you know, if the managers aren't watching, that just might answer the question, well, how do I get my agents to watch? If the managers aren't watching the videos on recruiting, decruiting, coaching, and training, that could be an issue. And here's the site, you know, right down here in the bottom. Anybody who's on this webinar, you have been granted management access, either as a manager or an administrator, and, you know, there are the things. We have them on decruiting, and of course now in today's market, recruiting, we have, you know, this is right here, Lance Burwald, one of the top managers in the Twin Cities, Sherry Schmidt, another one. They actually talk about how they do their recruiting, so I encourage you guys to log in. On Saturday, we sent out our monthly email, which announces the new videos, and we do this every time, but we only send it to you guys, the administrators and managers, and we rely upon you to forward this to your agents. Because if we email your agents, it gets filtered out, spammed out, we get complaints, and agents don't know it's a real email. So it came out Saturday, so forward this to all your agents so they can watch and take a look at the new videos. As I mentioned last time, we have a new agent user guide. In fact, I've got to get that attached to what's new for June. Right now it's only attached to what's new for May. We got to fix that. Rab, you're listening, if you don't mind helping me with that. But it's a 3-page PDF, and you can print it out, put it near the coffee, or just, you know, email it to your agents so they can log in, or you know, so they can take a look at it and figure out how to use our training, and that might increase viewership. I'm going to keep reminding you guys, Skype me into your meetings. I've done this 20 or 25 times, and people really, really seem to like it and get a kick out of it. So I'm going to keep doing that. And when I was asking why, I talked to a couple of managers. Yeah, I heard you talk about that. And I said, well, why haven't you taken me up on it? I said, well, we don't know how to use Skype. So go to Skype.com, download it to your computer, create an account, and then you can do search contacts and find me, David S. Knox. And then when the time comes, you can ring me. And by the way, I just got a note that Richard's going to be on soon, so good. So anyway, download Skype, create an account, and then we'll set it up, and then this is what it looks like. You know, you set the camera on your widescreen, and then I'll come in. We had a lot of fun. In fact, I did it by webinar to one of our customers this morning, and we just had a kick out of it. People like it. It spices up your meetings, and I think it's a great value to add. You know, usually if I'm going to do an hour webinar for somebody, you know, I'll charge a couple grand for it. So it's a really good value for you. And by the way, if you don't want to use Skype, we will use this GoToWebinar. So let's talk about our videos. KFT 87, target marketing. In the video, I talk about a friend of mine who saw me at Cars and Coffee and said, hey, David, you're a car guy, and I got a house that's, you know, multiple stalls, and a wall spins around from the garage to the living room. You know, he talked to me about this house that would be, you know, ideal for target marketing. So I said, yeah, you know, I used to teach that, and it's such a great segment in the listing presentation. And the benefit of this is when agents start doing target marketing, they'll begin to focus on the process of selling the home. And there's a target marketing worksheet that you can download, and it shows how to build and examine the target marketing. So a realtor will go in, they sit down with the listing agent, say, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you know, anybody can take a listing, but who's going to sell it? And before you list with a realtor, one of the questions you should ask is, who do they think is the most likely buyer? And a realtor sits down and says, we think it's going to be this price, this area, and we start describing the financial descriptions and the demographics of all these people, and the owners are going, wow, that's really impressive. And then when the competing agent comes in, the owner will say, well, who do you think is most likely to buy our home? And the competition, well, you know, just never know. You know, we put it in that multi-list, you never know who's going to buy it. Of course, then they look like an idiot. So let's go to the video. I'm going to click Browse All Videos. By the way, the What's New for June, as you know, these are all the topic lists, either PDF or Word, and you can download those. And KFT Target Marketing, click on the worksheet. It'll open in Word, so go to your downloads, double-click on the KFT 87 worksheet. It opens in Word, and you and your agents can put in your own logo, change all this information, and when you sit down with a seller, you can have this form pre-filled, handwrite, type, whatever you want to do, and say, you know, Mr. Seller, in order to buy your home, it needs this much cash, this payments, this income. So you start doing the financial qualifications. Then we start estimating who the buyer would be, then the buyer demographics, and then here's the media we're going to target, and here are the features that we're going to target. I just think it's going to give you and your agents a really strong competitive edge on your next listing presentation. So be sure to watch that and download the stuff. Then related quick tips. As you all probably know, August, this is just for those of you in the U.S. For those of you outside the U.S., take a deep breath and be glad. Be glad you don't have the Dodd-Frank Act, because it is really messing up our markets here. And the new Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, Division of HUD, they've got new lending requirements, and it's going to add time to the closing process. The disclosures have changed, and by the way, people are so afraid of this that I could get no one to go on camera and discuss the new rules. Literally, everybody said, no, we're not going to do it. We're not going to go on camera. We don't want to take liability. So I said, all right, I'll go on camera. So it's a quick video, and we may add more to this as we get closer to August. So for those in the United States, every mortgage from August 1 on is going to be affected by the new CFPB. So you got to watch this video. And then my second advice is be sure to talk to your lender and title company and have them give you a presentation on it. Quick tip number 7 is 5 pre-listing tips. We already had our first comment on it. People really like it. It's simple. And by the way, gosh, if you guys like the quick tips, you know, let me know how you like it. Type into the question area. I'd love to have the feedback on that. And coming soon, Real Estate Live number 25. We've edited all the video for this, and now I've got to shoot the studio portion. So we want to start uploading these in June. And you're going to get an opportunity to watch one of the number 15 teams in the United States on real listings with real sellers, real closing, real benefits, and it's going to go through the 8 steps of the listing process. So we'll probably do a few in June, and it'll probably take over June and July. But it looks like it's going to be an 8-segment part. And we're going to see them opening and doing seller homework, and then the seller counseling interview, the major steps of what I've called the real marketing plan. Now they're closing, where they close for the listing. That part is actually released in KFT 76, so you can actually see the end of that before you see the rest of it. So that's what's going to happen. Hey, Richard, you're going to talk about leading your agents to the next level, how to become a great leader, the art of delegation. So I'm going to turn it over to you and hold the iPhone over the microphone, and we'll do it that way.
Okay. I'm sorry for all the confusion, folks. But when David and I talked, I told him I'd like to talk about mastering the 5 skills for effective leadership. And I don't care if you're a manager, a broker, an owner, or a salesperson. You're in the world of leadership, because leadership is about working with people to create guidance for them. And my basic thought is this: you cannot lead another person past the point where you are. And if you're not in a process of growth, you can't help people to improve. And the challenge here is that when there is no leader, there is no leadership. And when that happens, the result is just people running around spreading confusion. And this is what I see so many times in so many organizations, is you have a broker, you have an owner, you have a manager, but when you look at it, there really is no leadership. Because too many times the organization is run out of fear, not out of the desire for it to grow. We talk about growth, but if the environment is not prepared for growth, there will be no growth. So let me put just a couple of words in front of you and give you my definition to them. The first one is the word leader. And my simple definition to the word leader is this: the one who's been given the responsibility to lead. And as simple as that sounds, it's very complex. because there are a lot of people who have the title of leader, but when you study their behavior, they're not leading. What they're doing is they're perpetuating the confusion inside their company. And this is where the word leadership comes into play. Because when I define the word leadership, I define it as the process. Because everything has to have a process. If there is no process, there is no defined direction. So it's the process of moving people forward. It's my basic belief that an organization or a human life can only go in one of two directions. They go in circles or they go forward. And when I go inside of an organization and I see that they're consistently facing the same issues that they've been facing, when I find that they're consistently talking about the same struggles, the same problems that they have, I understand real quickly that there is not leadership there. There's just a lot of chatter creating confusion. And so this is why my definition of leadership is so critical. The process of moving people forward through a common purpose, a common agenda, and a common commitment. And I'll tell you something, folks. Every time I go in an organization and there's not that common purpose, and what does that mean? There's not a common understanding of why we're doing what we're doing. What's our purpose? Why are we doing what we're doing? And a common agenda says we're all on the same page. That with this purpose, there's an agenda tied to it. And we understand who we are. We understand why we're doing what we're doing. And then there is a common commitment. Without a common commitment, you open the environment to cliques. Without a common commitment, you open the environment to people doing whatever they want to do. And when you don't have that commitment, there's never a common agenda and there's never a common purpose. So leadership is the process of moving people forward to a common purpose, a common agenda, and a common commitment. And then one more word I want to put out in front of you. That's the word participant. And when it comes to what we're talking about, my definition of a participant is one who stands in the midst of a situation where they should be the leader, but they allow the confusion to continue to grow. A participant is one who stands in the midst of a situation where they should be the leader. And the purpose of the leader is what? To lead. But if they're not addressing the issue, if they're not confronting, if they're not dealing with it, then they're allowing the confusion to grow. And at that point, if you're a manager or a broker, and I don't care if you're a salesperson, at that point, if you're participating in the confusion, then you are the issue. You are the problem, not the situation or the event. Because every situation or every event demands a leader who provides leadership. Now, listen to this. Leadership isn't something that just happens. It's the result of the person who has the responsibility to lead, having the skills, the commitment, and a big word, and the passion. They're still in love with what they're doing, to continue to move the organization forward with a clear direction. Understand something. If there's not a clear direction, there's simply a circle of confusion. Because you have to have the clear direction in order for there to be that forward movement.
So, Richard, I'm going to pause you right there. And, I know you do work with a lot of different companies, but when you work with real estate companies, what kind of confusion do you see, or what kind of things are they participating in when they should be a leader? Can you think of some things you've seen?
Yeah, what I see, David, is that there's an issue with an agent, and they won't address it. I find that they make a division between people who are top salespeople and average salespeople, and then people who are just hanging out in the office. And they're so fearful of loss that if I address this issue with this agent, then I'm going to lose them. So rather than having leadership that addresses, they become a participant by walking away from the event and not dealing with it. It's more like so many companies, they protect their environment from losing people rather than creating an environment where everyone shares in the common purpose, the common agenda, and the common commitment. Because without those three, there's only confusion.
It's interesting. and after all the years in the business, one of the biggest fears that I hear from managers is they're afraid to lose agents, because a lot of times we're rewarded for how many agents we have, and I think that's a big deal. How many agents they recruit, they don't want to lose any, so that's a big deal, I think.
Well, and David, I find it to be the biggest cause of conflict in their office, is that when you try to lead out of fear, there is no leadership. And if the reality is, if I have this agent and I'm fearful of losing them, then what am I going to do? I'm going to make exceptions for them. Other agents in the office are going to notice the exceptions. So the result of that is I look at the person who's in charge and I don't respect them.
Okay.
And what happens then is they give the agent they're fearful of losing, they give them control of their company. So the person who is the broker or the owner, they may pay the bills, but the people they're fearful of losing actually manage the office.
Yeah, so true. And then we don't fire them.
Well, and the result of that, David, is you don't build a business, you create an orphanage.
What do you mean by that? Say more.
Well, to build a business, you got to have a common purpose. We got to have that reason. We got to have the common agenda, and we got to have the commitment. So if I don't have those three, I become a collection of people who do what they want to do the way they want to do it, even though it's not what I want them to do. That is an orphanage, where we build an environment that is unhealthy and then expect it to be productive. The result of that then is a world of confusion, where the person who should be the leader becomes the participant in the confusion, and nothing gets resolved. And everybody has their own agenda. Everybody has their own set of rules. And there is no consistency in what they do as a company.
So if you're talking to a manager, what would be maybe the top 1, 2, or 3 things, specific things that they could do after this webinar?
Okay, there's 5 skills, David. There are 5 skills that anyone who will be an effective leader has got to have. Number 1, they've got to listen. And they've got to listen with their eyes and their ears. And you know my 3 little words: behavior never lies.
Right.
And if you have agents that are telling you one thing and doing another, then they're not sharing purpose, agenda, and commitment with you. And if people don't want to work with you inside your company based upon what you want to achieve with your company, then they become the enemy inside your company. I don't care what their level of production is. And they're going to cause clicks, they're going to cause confusion, and everything's going to be structured in all of this negative behavior that's inside of there. So if I'm the broker, if I'm the manager, I got to listen. I got to listen with my eyes and my ears, because this to me is the number 1 skill that every person in leadership has to develop. And to me, listening is using your ears and your eyes to gain the information needed to create clarity. And clarity says, hey, we have this common purpose, we have this common agenda, I need your commitment. And if you don't want to share this with us, then you don't need to be here. Because if the inside of a company is unhealthy, the people in that company become unhealthy. And if I'm the broker or the manager or the owner, and I'm fearful of losing somebody because of their production, and I give them control, then I'm sending a very negative message throughout my organization.
And we just got a question here, what do we do to establish a direction? And I guess, is that where you're going right now with number 1, listening?
Yeah. And then the second principle they got to have is they got to communicate. What I have found is that most brokers and most managers, they don't know how to communicate to their people because they don't address issues. And communication is not just talking. Communication, when you look at it, is the process of moving forward with clarity. If there's an issue that is not in line with the purpose, the agenda, and the commitment, then I got to talk about that. I cannot be fearful of addressing the behavior of people. I was working with a real estate company not long ago that lost 5 agents that they should not have lost, but they lost it because the broker would not address some of the behaviors of their top producer. And what the broker told me, he says, Richard, if I talk to him, he's going to get upset. If he gets upset, he's going to leave and go somewhere else. I said, let him go.
Let him go. Let it go.
Yeah, because he's not part of your organization. And he's paralyzing you because you will not address and communicate his behavior. And that's where the third skill comes in. And to me, this is probably one of the most important skills, but it's one that creates the greatest fear. And that is, you've got to not be afraid of confrontation. And if those of you who are there don't hear anything that I say, you memorize this one thought. Anything you do not confront, you validate. So if I've got an agent whose behavior is not in line with what I want, and I don't address and confront that, I've validated that behavior. And then the reality is, it's no longer their issue, because all they are doing is doing what I'm allowing them to do. It all falls back on the lack of leadership, because leadership listens, leadership communicates, leadership confronts. And anything you don't confront, you make okay. And I find confrontation to be one of the most frightening things you ask a lot of people to do. And you don't confront when you're angry. You attack when you're angry. I watch so many times people, they get to the point where they're just boiling over with anger, and then they lash out, and now they're going to deal with it. Well, they're not dealing with it. They're just attacking, and when you're attacking, no one takes you seriously.
Yeah, that's like the husband and wife who says, hey, honey, would you pass me the sugar? I'm sick and tired of passing you the sugar. You've destroyed my marriage. Obviously something's going on. Say, I'm going to stop you for 2 things, Richard. One, when you talk about confrontation, we actually have a form in our site, and you can't see this, but it's called the One-on-One Feedback Guidelines, and it's a collection of things that I've gotten from the One Minute Manager and a bunch of other top people, where it talks about observing the behavior, setting a meeting, agreeing to do the evaluation, and leading them through. Are they aware or unaware of their behavior? So for those of you listening, I think, where did I just go for this? I think I went to KFT 29 feedback coaching, and it ties in perfectly with what Richard is talking about. So, and one of the key things about evaluation, Richard, I'll see how you feel about this, in order to avoid the attack and have it be a confrontation, one of the things that I have on this form is you ask them to evaluate themselves first. That way you're not attacking. They may actually attack themselves. So I'll run that by you, see how you feel about it.
Well, David, I think you can take the fear out of confrontation if you practice 3 C's. And I think this is where you are. And if I needed to confront your behavior, my conversation with you would be this: David, I have a concern. Now, notice there, my pronoun is singular. I have a concern. And then the second C, here's what's causing my concern. Again, it is a singular pronoun. I'm not attacking. It's that I have a concern. And here's what's causing my concern, all singular pronouns. And then the third C, what can we do to correct this? And now now we're in conversation about what can we do together to correct this. And my resolution on this is this: if they're not willing to work with you in resolving your concern based upon what's causing your concern, then they're not a part of your company. They're just using you, because then they don't have a common purpose with you. They don't have a common agenda with you. And I'll tell you what, behavior that goes against what you want for your company says they're not committed to your company. They're just using you.
Okay.
And I don't understand why any intelligent broker would keep somebody who's working against them.
Yeah. Well, I'll bring up one practical thing, and just because somebody may have this question, some brokers may have the model where this person is, paying a monthly fee. So it's a little bit different than commission income. So how might you address that model of the agents paying a monthly fee to be a member?
Well, then what they're doing is they're paying you to let them torture you.
Okay.
And David, I don't care if they're paying a guest fee or a monthly fee or what. If they don't share purpose with you, if they're not there and they're not there with the same reason you're there for, if they're simply there to make money and they don't care how they do it, that's affecting your reputation.
Yeah, well, there you go.
And if they don't have a common agenda with you, you're never going to be able to talk to them.
Okay.
I learned this doing marriage counseling. Everything collides at the point of agenda. And if you do not have a common agenda, there is no positive conversation.
Okay.
And when you don't have that, then you don't have their commitment. And that's why I come back to say they're using you to achieve their agenda, and in the process, they're affecting your reputation.
Good.
And when they're finished playing with you, they'll go to another office.
In that case, it may be just fine. Good. And in terms of communication, I've said one of the easiest ways to do it is have a 15-minute one-on-one with just one agent a day, or however that divides out. So at least there's some time with them.
Oh, David, I'm a big proponent of that because I think sometimes brokers get busy avoiding their salespeople. I think they create busyness so they don't have time for their salespeople. And when they do that, they cause the disconnect.
Yeah.
I think the broker needs to have these one-on-one with their people because it's a way of reaching out and connecting and saying that you care about them and you care about them being a part of your company and you want them to grow. And in that one-on-one, if you can help them just understand one point of clarity that will make them to be better, then you've increased their value. And I hope people don't take this wrong, but a lot of the real estate companies I've worked with, the broker has no value except they have an office and they pay bills.
Yeah.
But their value to the agent is diminished because of their lack of presence.
I guess in defense of some of the brokers too, I want to make sure I express some empathy. A lot of these men and women are just so overwhelmed. They're doing management and administration and deal doctoring and a million other things. So I certainly don't want to stand here like, hey, it's easy to have a one-on-one meeting every day, because some of these days are crazy and they've got a lot to do. And of course, my challenge to a lot of principal brokers is find a way to let your managers manage.
Yeah, if they're busy, what's their value? Because you manage tasks, you lead people. And we need to understand, is this person the leader of this office or are they managing this office? And if they're managing the office, that's the administrative side. If they're the leader in that office, that's the people side. Yep. And I don't think we make that distinction enough.
I like that distinction, and I do, again, in defense of a lot of the managers, they end up having to do a lot of the task administration. I think it takes them away from the leadership skills, and it's tough. So I guess that takes us to number 4.
Yeah, which is delegation. Sometimes what we do in a manager or in the manager of the office, sometimes we do for the agents what the agent should be doing for themselves. But we do that because we're fearful if we don't, we'll lose that agent. Because so many times an agent, if they understand the insecurity of the manager, they will threaten the manager with leaving. And this is, again, where I find so many managers become busy, being busy, and they don't have time to be the leader. And if there is not a leader, there is no leadership in the office. If there's no leadership in the office, everybody has their own agenda. If everybody has their own agenda, there is no direction forward with the company. They live in circles where they're constantly rehashing the same problems over and over again. And delegation is where you allow people to grow. And then the last one of these is decision-making. What I find is that most people don't make decisions, they announce a thought.
I've been guilty of that.
But a decision is where once we've decided on this, we don't come back to it. How many times have you seen a broker say what they think is a decision and the next day come back with something different? And a decision is an ending. A decision, it says this has been dealt with. We're not coming back here. We're now going forward because we have resolved this. The purpose of a decision is to resolve, end, and move beyond.
I see this when brokers sometimes will merge offices. for whatever reason, they say, hey, it's going to be more efficient to merge an office, and the two office cultures fight back and forth and back and forth. We want this and we want that. At some point, say, dudes, the merger's done. Okay, it's over, done. No more chat. You know.
Yeah, but
join the team.
What happens in that? There's still issues that haven't been addressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and y'all don't take me wrong. Being a leader is not simply having a title. It's being able to effectively communicate, effectively listen, effectively confront, effectively, you know, delegate and make decisions. But that effectiveness means you got to have an office that has that common purpose, that common agenda, and that common commitment, because the result of that is you have them have a pace inside the office where we can walk, we don't have to run. And we run because of fear, we walk because of confidence.
I like that. Well,
and
I'm going to just check, Richard, I'm just showing on the screen is your KFT 83.5 Philosophies of Life. And before you came on, I showed the comments on it. I think there's 13 comments. They're all very positive. So I think the philosophies of life probably apply more to the audience today, administrators, managers, leaders. So I would encourage, how long? It's a 13-minute video. So I definitely suggest you tune into that. And as you got to point 5, I'm just going to see if there's any questions that anyone would like to ask Richard. Now's the time to plug it in. And Richard, I believe we've got another video of yours that's going to be going up, I think, dealing with the fear. So that'll probably go up this summer as well. So that'll be the next one to go up. But yeah, I think, you know, these are such great skills, and I think managers need to be leaders. And again, it's so easy for us to just say that. And I understand managers have, I think, the toughest job in this industry without any question about it. And I also believe it's the most important job in all of residential real estate, because if the manager is strong, the office is strong. And if the manager comes in early, agents come in early. If the manager dresses up, agents dress up. So the manager really sets the tone in his or her office. So the leadership is so critical.
Well, it's what you've heard me say before, David. I think the greatest statement of respect that can ever be paid to a manager is that they have a positive presence that is present when they're not present.
Yeah.
That because they have the respect to their people, that common purpose, that common agenda and common commitment is just natural.
Yeah.
But if they have a weak presence, they'll never share purpose, agenda, and commitment, and the office will just become a bunch of people running around emotionally colliding with each other.
Exactly. Well, Richard, we're at the end of our time on the webinar, and I want to thank you very, very much. I've put up your address, and richardflint.com. I put up your 800 number, 800-368-8255. And I know you do a lot of seminars and different coaching, so there's a lot of things that our members can use you for. So I thank you guys all.
Yeah, and David, if they'd like to have a copy, the total copy of what we're talking about today, if they'll just email me, richard@richardflint.com, I'll have Denise send them a complete study guide to what we talked about today that has all of this in it in greater detail.
Oh, good, good. I'm sure they will appreciate that. And you'll do it in like Word or something where it's small.
It'll be in a Word document, and we'll just we'll send them a link where they can just click on it and download it.
Okay, sounds good. And well, Richard, thank you very much for joining. And you know what I'm going to do is, when I say goodbye to everybody, I'd like to try getting you to log in. If for no other, do you have a second to just see if we can test this and why it didn't work?
Yeah, hang on a second.
Well, I'll say goodbye to everybody first, and then so hang on, and then you can log in. So now, back to your members. Remember to forward our video announcement to everybody. Download the RET Agent User Guides. Email that out to everybody. Remember to Skype or webinar me into your meeting. And email me, david@davidknox.com. And thank you all for joining us. Thanks for putting up with our little technical difficulties. Hope you got a lot out of Richard. And thanks for being members. It looks like the vote was to not do the July 6th webinar, so we'll pass on that. And the next one will be August. So thank you guys very much. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm just going to scroll down and see if there's any final questions. Is this webinar recorded by chance? Yes, it is recorded. We'll probably have to edit out some of that. We'll clean it up for you. And Don, thank you, Don. Thanks for saying thank you. See you guys later.